Yes, welcome. Let me turn this off, take these off. Another episode of the Shoot the Messenger podcast. My name is AJ. Here with me is Kendra.
Hello, greetings.
You got a cat in your lap.
I do have a cat.
They can't even see it. Can you hold him up?
No, I can't.
Can you point to camera? Let's see the cat. That's Theodore.
Can you see him?
He's like 12 pounds, 3 ounces, like a huge baby. I don't know how much he weighs. He's great though. What great. Episode number 8 as we get going. Just past the New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year, Kendra.
Happy New Year. This is our first show of 2019.
How we sounded? Check. Mic check one.
I think it sounds pretty good right now.
You're loud enough?
That's what I think.
You're loud enough? Too loud? Loud enough. You're good. Okay, good. I like it. Well, we will find out. Keep listening.
Well, maybe I'm a little muffled.
What do you mean muffled? Too loud? A little distorted?
Well,
We can fix it. It's fine. Let's start off with the pleasantries. I want to ask you how the gym membership is first. How's that going?
Is non-existent.
I caught you working out. I
Yes.
caught you doing what is that yoga move where it looks like you're holding an imaginary beach ball?
Well,
you have the beach ball move?
Yeah, it's kind of a squat type position, you know, so you're supposed to engage your legs and like keep your back straight and then like just kind of sit down. I think it's chair. Maybe that's
the
what
chair
it's called.
pose. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So I was doing squats. I've been doing a lot of planks just to plank it up. So much so that I tried to sit up the other day and it was like, that's not good.
A little
Yes.
You know, speaking of, never mind. It's so bad, but somebody was talking the other day and he said, have you ever passed gas so hard that you cracked your back? Also, he's like, it's the best feeling in the world. He's like, it is the best. That's never happened to me, but
no, me either. That is an experience I think I would actually like to experience at some point in my life.
I think some people would consider that their yoga too. So there you go, cracking backs. Pleasantries. The new year getting started, and let's just jump into the topics today. Okay, how about that? You like that?
I like it.
Okay, you shoot first this week on the new year. It being the 5th, already 5 days into 2019.
New year, new opportunity, and new YouTube rabbit hole that we're jumping in today. Last week we covered Red Dead Redemption 2.
I like that rabbit hole.
And
that
it
was
was
good.
A great rabbit hole. But now the thing that I'm struggling with is trying to climb out of the rabbit hole. all YouTube is showing me is Red Dead Redemption videos right now.
I hate that. You search one thing and then you keep seeing it over and over again. Don't tell me what I want to see. But anyway,
Yeah.
I mean,
So
what you don't want to see. I mean, don't guess what I want to see.
yes, I would like a nice variety. I would like a potpourri of experience and videos.
But you have said Red Dead Redemption that we covered last week was like your favorite of all time. I mean, you do love the game. I mean, you were talking about it at work
yes,
to your coworkers, and your male coworkers are geeking out over it.
basically, I was telling them how much I enjoyed watching the game because I don't play games, which surprised everybody that I like sat through an entire video game and watched it.
It's more about the story for you.
Yeah, totally all about the story. And it's also about the ownership and the ability to choose. It actually came up because somebody was talking about the new Black Mirror movie. Apparently you can choose options in that movie. Like, so you put it up and then you get the choice. You get to watch the main character go through. So I have not yet watched it, but apparently, so that conversation of like choosing your entertainment and having ownership within the story is kind of what led to video games. And but in this week's YouTube rabbit hole, as I was trying to climb out, I'm a pretty big fan of Joe Rogan, which means that I always get a lot of his videos.
Oh, yeah.
And so I've been seeing a lot of Joey Diaz stuff, and he has a way of telling a story that is pretty good, and his voice is so unique that it's kind of fun just to listen to him talk.
How's he talk?
Oh, he's got a nice smoke Jersey voice like this. This is the way Joey Diaz talks.
That's enough. That's enough of that.
I just can't do it. It's
Joey Diaz. I go in there. It's in New York. So he's New York, right?
Very, very much.
Okay, so what is this about? Okay, you have this minor fixation on Joey Diaz. So what it is about him? I mean, obviously Joe brings him on the podcast as a regular for a reason. I mean, the guy is charismatic, and some people, they don't care about anything, right? And he seems like one of those guys.
He definitely, especially in his youth, gave no Fs. Like, totally was just, hung out in the wrong crowd. He committed a lot of crime. He admits that he committed a lot of crime. He admits that he did a lot of drugs in his youth, and that he struggled with addiction. And he talked about like coming out of addiction, and really that's how I got interested in Joey Diaz, because I work in the addiction treatment industry, and so to hear somebody talk about their sobriety story and how they overcame addiction is always really powerful for me to hear, because it helps me understand how to help other people. So I started listening to him talk about him kicking his cocaine habit, all the crazy stuff that he's done growing up, and YouTube just kept showing me more and more Joey Diaz videos. He's got his own podcast, so he's got a lot of YouTube videos.
Oh,
out.
He does have his own podcast.
He does.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I mean, and he's also a full-time comedian, so he's got stuff out there. But as I was listening to this, the thing that struck me the most and surprised me the most was the utter lack of respect he had for work in his youth. I mean, he was telling stories about how he would show up to a job, quit the same day, and steal money from the people he worked for. Which, no, don't do that. But
no, I don't like that at all. I'm really against that.
Totally.
I believe in like putting your nose down and working hard and like getting what you give. And, other people, this is real life. Like, people will get ahead by stealing sometimes, and that's unfortunate. But that's just life. I mean, life isn't like, if you steal, you will go down a bad path. I mean, Joey stole, and now he's, he lived like a rich life, and he's doing these rich things, right?
Well, and he does admit, he totally believes in karma, and like, if you do bad things, you will have bad things happen to you, because he spent time in jail. Mm-hmm. He talks about...
It's not all roses.
No, it's not all roses. He definitely had some experiences, and he's definitely on the up and up, but that's only because likely he's quit substances. He's now really settled down. He works hard at comedy. Even when he was getting into comedy, he says that he set rules about his drug use, and now he doesn't do nearly as many drugs as he used to. And he also says that he knew that if comedy didn't work out, then he would probably have gone back to doing more illicit things, because he wanted something that he felt good about. He says that part of the reason he really didn't respect work is because he grew up in a family where he saw crime a lot. And how can you respect a 9-to-5 office job when you're seeing money being thrown around or people breaking the law all the time? It's really hard to want, when you see that kind of power and you're around that kind of a situation, it's hard to want a vanilla lifestyle. And so he said that was
well,
one of the
vanilla's
things.
boring, it's a comeback story, right? Joey Diaz, we love as Americans the comeback story, I think, and he is the ultimate comeback story, don't you think?
I totally agree.
Like, so he lived a life. You told me one of the stories about like working at a car wash.
It was gas stations.
Gas stations.
So in New Jersey, it's illegal to pump your own gas. And so what he would do is he would apply for a job at a gas station as somebody who would pump gas from about midnight until 8 a.m. So the third shift when nobody wants to work those hours.
Right.
And basically what he would do is he would show up, he would pump gas for about 4 hours, and then he would take whatever money was given to him and he would just leave.
Just quit.
He wouldn't even quit. He wouldn't even tell anybody he was leaving. He would just never show up again and just leave and take the money that had been given to him throughout his.
That's something
4
you
hours
can't do
working.
in a small town. I'll tell you that right there, because everybody knows who you are. Like, they show up at your house in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he would just wow.
Yeah.
But now he's a different guy, right? He's on a health kick and stuff like that. How does he explain like this whole transition? I mean, you're into him. I'm calling this segment Kendra's fixation on Joey Diaz. Is that okay?
That's fine. Right
Okay,
now.
we got the okay.
It's a phase. I tend to go through YouTube phases where I want to hear a lot of stories from one person, and so
Yeah.
I'll kind of like immerse myself in their life.
I like it.
But he said honestly, that he got tired of the lifestyle. He said that honestly, he quit doing drugs when it stopped being fun, when it stopped feeling, when it was just something that he was doing and it was something that he wasn't enjoying anymore. That's really when he decided that he didn't want to do it anymore. So that, that is...
How does that strike you? I mean, you work with addiction treatment centers, and writing posts for them. And when you hear something like that, does that line up with what the addiction treatment centers kind of teach?
Well, it's kind of discouraging, actually, because that actually kind of, to me, says that in his instance, he had to get bored with drugs in order to quit them. And even though it ruined his life and he got, but really it was the experience and the fact that it wasn't fun for him anymore that really made him quit. And that makes me question, and I always believed that sobriety is something that you have to choose for yourself. And this is something that oftentimes I'll write about, and the fact that, your choice to quit substances or live a new life is always up to you. Nobody can force you to do anything in life.
Right.
Addiction treatment centers can help you detox. They can help you through the hard stages of an addiction. They can get you on the right track. But ultimately, when you go home, it's going to be it's going to be up to you, and it's going to be your hard work that determines whether or not you stay sober or not.
Yeah.
And so, in his instance, it wasn't about sobriety. It was about, this isn't enjoyable anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. And so, it's kind of discouraging, but everybody's got a different story. Steve-O, he's got a really great story about becoming sober and how, he was basically ruining his life, and people came to him and said, "We love you. We don't want to see you hurt anymore. Please get help." And that's when he decided to get help.
Well, you're also who you hang out with. I bet Joey Diaz's crowd is a little bit different now. I mean, hanging out with Joe Rogan, who's a super health nut. I mean, he does the bad stuff, but they also all go clean together. They all battle each other. They're working out. They're trying to be the best possible versions of themselves. Hello, New Year's. hello, resolutions. So, I mean, he's probably in a better crowd, too, to be able to sober up. So, I think, like, do they talk anything about that? I'm sorry to jump from Joey Diaz to addiction, but a little segue. Do they teach that, like who you hang out with?
Absolutely. I mean, residential addiction treatment centers talk about the value of a new environment, surrounding yourself with new people who are going through the same experiences that you have. So it's much more valuable for you, if you're trying to get sober, to hang out with somebody who's also trying to get sober, simply because you're dealing with the same challenges. You can empathize with what somebody's going through, which makes... And we often talk about isolation and how, when you quit doing drugs, the people that you did drugs with, you don't want to hang out with those people anymore because the drugs are going to be around. You're going to feel like a spoil sport, or it's not going to be, it's just not as much fun. And so when you're newly becoming sober, it can be very isolating because you don't have people to hang out with. You're trying to have this new lifestyle that's different from the people you
I don't
used
want to
hang
talk
out with.
about like addiction too much. I want to keep it on Joey Diaz, but I hear you. I mean, you're absolutely right. You are who you hang out with, and I'm glad they do teach that, because it does feel like that to me. Running with different groups, it's harder to say no when it's around all the time.
Yeah.
A little more on Joey Diaz.
Well, and the other thing that he says I made a big difference in his life. I don't know if you're aware of this, but he has a small daughter. He has a wife.
She's a little daughter.
She's
like
a little one.
Are you talking about?
She's
A short person?
no.
Oh.
Like a baby.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I'm not sure how old she is, but she's definitely under 5. Some of the videos he talked about how like she's starting to get a little bit older. She's starting to recognize, what's going on. And Joey talks all the time about how he still smokes weed. And he says he's very careful about not having that stuff around where his daughter is. He said specifically it's in a spot. So he said basically if she opens up whatever it's in, she's still not going to be able to see it because it's within something else.
Ah, okay.
So he's very careful about not having it around because he knows that.
I bet Joey knows how to hide drugs. Something about Joey says that he knows how to hide some drugs.
Yeah.
So, okay,
yeah.
that's really cool. I think having kids kind of changes your perspective sometimes.
Yeah,
To those who are, and Joey seems like he has a good heart. He seems like a good person. I mean, if you like him, then I gotta think great.
Well, and I really I respect his willingness to be honest about his experiences. And he, like I said, he's a great storyteller, and you'll get me every time if you can tell a good story. So. He's got some really crazy stories. I would not condone anything he did in his youth. FYI, please don't emulate his previous behavior. But he is a testament to find something that you enjoy and do it. Work hard at the thing that you enjoy, which in his case is comedy. And comedy helped change his life, and he's successful, and he's able to step away from drugs because he was successful in the thing that he loved.
Are you going to continue to watch Joey Diaz? I just think, like, I don't like listening to a criminal. I don't like listening, it's like, what are you, I feel like he embellishes his stories, right? He's an embellisher. Things are always more grandiose than they actually were at the time. I like the straight up stories. That way, if something's really great happening, then it's really great. And it's not just, you went to the mall again or something like that, or the store, and, you met a celebrity or whatever. So it kind of worries me sometimes, the sensationalizing of you look back on your life with rose-colored glasses and you
embellish totally, or
seems like one of those,
and I do think that he does strike me as a little bit of an embellisher, but I also am aware that sometimes like reality is just stranger than fiction. And so even though sometimes his stories seem a little bit crazy, like who knows? Like, it might have happened.
Sometimes when you're going through it, you don't realize how crazy it is, and then you go back and tell the story, like, that was kind of what? That was kind of, hey.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I'm going to try to step away from the Joey Diaz thing, but really, it was just, I started getting into his rabbit hole simply because I was trying to climb out of the Red Dead Redemption one, and YouTube just kept showing me the same videos over and over again. So we'll see where my YouTube rabbit hole takes me next week, but I'm hoping that it's not.
It's a thing that everybody goes through. I really like this segment because everybody, kind of goes through that YouTube rabbit hole. I mean, that's what the internet does. It tries to get you to stay and get the clicks. So that's cool. All right, I like that. All right, moving on to the next topic here on the Shoot the Messenger podcast. I got to fix that. Let's get to your feel-good story. Little palate cleanser, a little short one here for you today. I found this front page of Reddit today, #1 right now, and I just like this story a lot. This is these guys watching the games as bros is the title. Now, this guy saying was watching the Michigan UL-UK games at Roosters today when I noticed a man looking for a seat to watch the game. There was none available. I told him he could sit with me and my son. After introducing ourselves, we ended up having a great conversation about his life. He's a vet in the Navy, served our country in the Vietnam War. He says he's the only one left from his immediate family besides his sister, and they live in Alabama. It turned out he just came up to Roosters because he felt lonely and wanted someone to watch the game with. It was pretty cool to have experience today, even cooler for my son to see how an act of kindness can impact people. It's good people in the world. Y'all be kind to each other. Great.
Yeah,
almost brings a tear to my eye, honestly. Like I love that so much, and I don't know what it's like to be old older, and I know what it's like to get old, but I can imagine that, it gets pretty lonely later on. So this is a good news story today. I thought it was a great palate cleanser and something I wanted to bring to the forefront. And plus, it's on the front page of Reddit today. Front page of the internet.
Perfect.
What do you think about that? You ever, I used to live with a guy that looked relatively similar to the gentleman in this photo here. We had a big house in Hawthorne, California, where SpaceX is, and he used to be the mayor. He was was a real estate agent, and he was still working. But his name was Guy, and he was awesome. And, he had a huge house, and he rented out a couple young kids, and he was never there. He's going on vacations to Hawaii and whatnot. But I feel like sometimes people just want that youth around, keeps them young a little bit,
Well, the first thing that popped into my head when I heard this is I'm kind of a shy person, especially in public. I'm the type of person where if a salesperson looks at me, I will look the other direction. If people say hi, I typically don't respond because it's not that I don't want to. I'm just, it's so hard and for me to respond to people out in public. I'm just a little scared rabbit all the time.
Wow.
And so I feel like hearing this,
Scared rabbit. Okay.
I'm missing opportunities. I'm missing opportunities to bond with my fellow man when I am so tunnel visioned and so terrified to talk to people. So, I really wish that I could talk to people more often, and stories like this make me want to.
Yeah, it's a reminder, right? It's a reminder of the kindness that you have. And I think when you feel it from the inside out, you feel that kindness in, and you really genuinely greet someone that you don't know, it'll show up. We humans can pick up on that. So it's like how I look at acting. When I do emotions on stage, I don't want it to be on the outside and be like, haha, I'm happy. I want to feel the emotion inside and bring it out through there. And I think kindness and being great to one another is kind of the same thing. And this kind of just brought it out of me. I was like, yeah, I
Totally.
like that. I like that. And that's your palate cleanser right there. The feel-good story of the day. And now we're going to jump into the world of Atlas. Is that what we're doing?
We are.
Oh my gosh. Okay, here, take a look at this. This is the game called Atlas. Okay, this is the trailer for Atlas. It's a game. It's a multiplayer online, and this is what they promised. Okay, this is what the game looks like. This is not what the game is. This is a trailer. It's kind of a beeped up version. It's in early access, but it released. And I jumped in on it because one of my favorite streamers was playing it, and there's over 14,000 people playing the game. But it's been quite an experience. I've never played a game like this where you have so many other people. I would compare it to World of Warcraft, but there's you're fighting other players, having pirate ship battles, trying to claim land, also looking for treasure, also mining resources and things of that nature.
Well, how is this different from Sea of Thieves? Is it bigger, larger, more?
It's definitely more involved. Sea of Thieves would be like a kid's game compared to this because there's just so much more to this game. Diving in shipwrecks, micromanaging your ship, repairs on your ship. You even have to, it's a survival game, so you have to feed yourself and you have to drink water, you have to find water, you have to find food, you have to kill animals, you can tame animals and ride them. And there's a lot to it. And it's been an aspect. So right now I'm going to tell you about our voyage in Sea of Thieves, okay? This is my basically Atlas. I'm sorry. This is my week in Atlas. So I basically started off kind of building my own raft, trying to find this streamer and his group. And it took me seriously like 3 days. But when I did, I'll bring it up on the screen here. This is kind of what I came around to. See, I got my map, and you can actually see the area which I sailed, which took a long, long time on a raft because I wasn't able to build a boat. A little raft with a sail and a bed and maybe some supplies, right?
Just trying to get where you were going.
Yeah, and I came upon this group, and all of a sudden, like all this stuff that you see on the screen here, it's man-made. They actually made it, mined the supplies, had people going, and they had a really, really great kind of a group there, making sure things would happen and go. You can see all these ships that they built, the Dutch rudder, which is, the Exterminatus is over there. And really
lots of internet names in this game where people are naming their rafts internet things.
Very memey, I would say. Taiwan #1, and that was great. There was recruiting office, so people that wanted to be in the group, the guy would role play. He's like, "Who is #1?" And that would be the test, and they'd have to say Taiwan #1. And then, so it was pretty great. So I met up with the crew, and I immediately started doing things like, you see me farming. You can see the food cooking over the fire here. And they kind of told me what to do. And I had played the game quite a bit at this point, so I kind of knew how to do some of these things. It was really cool. You can use different dyes and dye your own clothes, and you can see my little outfit here looks pretty cool.
But you have to mine the dye, right? Like
you have to find water and mash it with berries and make the dye. You can see the storage unit here, and they had everything organized, multiple armor here and different things. So they were making this stuff nonstop, and I could just go in, grab some armor, and it was really nice. Like, this is stuff you could not probably do by your onesie all alone, right? Mm-hmm. So let me get this back to okay. So yes, and then let me show you. I'm also going to bring up like what the game could be. Finally, when I met up with my favorite YouTuber or Twitch broadcaster, streamer, Moon, it was really great because we had this huge epic battle. Let me bring it up here. And he had a ship called the Constitution. And that was the most awesome ship I had seen in a long time.
Because there's different like sizes of ships you can build. You mentioned the raft, but there's also like the schooner. And
very good. Thank you for that. There's a raft, and then it goes up to a sloop, and then you have something maybe called a schooner, and then you have a brig, and then you have this one, which I can't remember the name of it, but it's a big ship, and it was called the SS Constitution, right?
Uh-huh.
This is, and you can see somebody, regular sails here. You got regular sails over here, but this is like an eagle put on there, the American flag, and you actually have the Constitution on the sails.
That is a striking ship.
Yeah, and we had this whole fleet of ships going into a harbor to do this raid. And these are all real players. Every green name you see on the stream is a real player. And Moon didn't play, and he didn't harvest the resources with us. We kind of just set this all up for him to grab and then go.
Yeah.
And, some people were kind of mad about the way he played, but I didn't. I mean, I think it's all for the views and all for the fun. There's nothing better than sailing into a fleet, a harbor with multiple ships and just cannonballing them, which is pretty great. So through my week of adventures, a lot happened. I mean, we took over an island. There was a group called MAGA, Make America Great Again.
Of course.
That everybody didn't like, but they were huge.
Uh-huh.
And what we ended up doing was running like some small, we just wanted to mess with them. We were running small sloops over and just kind of firebombing all their boats. And we were sinking a lot of them. But then one of their members mutinied and scuttled all their boats. He destroyed all their boats. And it was big news. It was even on Reddit, and people had posted about it. And it was like super scandalous. From there, we moved to a place called Australia, which had multiple crocodiles. There's multiple raids going on. We had to find the Promised Land itself. And even our group, that was like 100 strong, had a mutiny. There's a group called the Night Shift that went and took all the supplies from our base, and they just sailed away. Luckily, there's something called an admin that they were still considered in our group. He just went aboard their boats and destroyed them all instantly. Ooh. You can scuttle them instantly. So they lost all their supplies. And now we're in a place new called the Promised Land. And before, when I was just a number, I've kind of rose up through the ranks. And that's a funny thing about the internet, in these games.
One of the things that really struck me is it's very, like, listening to you guys play, it at times feels very much like just office politics, just regular trying to figure out, all right, guys, we've got to do this and this. Who's going to do it? And so there's always, just like anything in life, there's trying to figure out who's going to take care of this thing. Sometimes people are disappointed in other people's work. Sometimes people get promoted through the ranks because they did a good job. It's true. Very much was hilarious to me how the real world translated into this virtual reality.
Yeah, and they don't know who you are. So I'm taking orders from like some high school kid that's never led anybody, has no leadership skills, whines all the time. And they're like, I like to speak up, so I gave it to him one time, and then the higher, I really gave it to him. I was like, kid, you're whining and complaining. You're just basically ruining the morale right now. You need to stop, because multiple people had came to me and complained, and then of course the higher ups came to me, and I'm like, hey, let me talk to you, tell you what happened, and I just communicated to them like an adult. But it's the memes are nonstop with these people. They're very good talkers. They've been here before, and the community's been pretty good, but everybody's kind of on edge because if one person that's in a higher up position decides to mutiny, he can really do a lot of damage. So they were like trying to keep everything secret. We sailed for 5 hours one night to get to. We didn't know where we were going. They're like, just sail west. We have an answer for you. And we ended up at this place called Australia that had freaking alligators in it, and it was kind of crazy. I mean, I've seen ships that remind me of Mad Max where they have a huge platform out front and they have these firebomb things that are like burning ships and you can burn the sails. It has been quite a game,
Now, you mentioned the fact that, like, sometimes you're taking orders from people that don't have any leadership skills or don't have any experience. Do you think that a game like this could teach leadership skills? Is this maybe, if we've got a creative thinker out there that's like, I wanna learn how to be a better leader,
No,
play is the best way to learn.
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, you could definitely learn some leadership skills from playing this game. It's not something I'd put on a resume, though. You know what I'm saying? You could.
Lead Atlas ship.
I mean, some of these, like, if there's not proper leadership, when these leaders are offline, the group kind of, like, fizzles. And, like, I want to jump in, but I'm not in the position to jump in. But it kind of gets directionless. If you don't have direction, it's kind of a meme for real life, too. If you don't know where you're going and what you want to do, it kind of just fizzles away. You gotta have goals. You gotta have some kind of focus on where you want to go. And the same is very real life, the same regards to real life. So it's been quite the experience playing that game. It is in early access, so it was super glitchy. A lot of people were complaining, wanting their money back. But the sense of community from the people that watch this streamer that I watch, I kind of like to learn because here we are on Twitch broadcasting live. I like to learn from the best, so I watch the best. And it's been pretty good. So I've enjoyed my time. I'll probably have more to speak on it later. We'll talk about it next week. I don't want to spend too much time on it. But Kendra, why don't you tell us what's the next topic here?
Since we keep talking about it, let's talk about goals.
Yes.
Not resolutions.
Ooh, what's the difference?
Well, a resolution is kind of a vague... I'm going to do this vague thing.
Well, it's something we do during the new year, right?
Yeah. Okay. So really I've heard several people on YouTube actually mention, like, I want to set goals this year, not resolutions. I think resolutions are weak, but a goal, and specifically SMART goals, which I'll get into the acronym in just a second, specifically SMART goals are a good way to set yourself up for success. Mm-hmm. So this is actually something that they teach in education when they're teaching new teachers how to set lesson plans up. They teach them what you want to do with your lesson plan is set goals for the students. And these should be, quote, SMART goals, which stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic,
yes,
and time sensitive.
I have okay. Well, let's break it down. Let's start with the S.
Specific.
Okay, so you got to be specific on what you want.
Yes.
Like how specific?
The more specific, the better, typically. So
I always feel weird. I feel like, doing that, like, I don't want to let myself down. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a fear with people, like, making a specific goal. You don't want to let yourself down. If you get specific, then there it is on the table. You got to look at it. But that's also what kind of drives you, right?
Exactly. It's supposed to drive you. And that also feeds into some of those later parts of the SMART goals, like the attainable and the realistic. If you're setting a specific goal, then it should be something that you should be able to accomplish.
Right.
And there should be steps that you should be able to take in order for that to happen. Mm-hmm. So being specific is good, but when you set that specific goal, it shouldn't be something like, I would like to go to the moon next year. Because
Right,
is that
yeah.
realistic? Is that attainable for me?
No, that sounds pretty dumb.
No,
Okay.
it's not.
No, it's not that dumb, but whatever. I don't want to shit on anybody's dreams, but okay.
Well, if I was somebody else, then it might be different. But
Yeah.
for me, I don't think that's an attainable or realistic goal. But my resolution to read 12 books, that is specific.
Why do you? Okay, so the 12 book thing's pretty good. You didn't read 12 books. I see all those books behind you. By the way, we got to get rid of these Christmas lights. I know people are probably thinking that like Christmas lights is the 5th of July, but I like them. I like lights.
They're nice. They're nice ambiance.
Yeah.
Ever since college, it's been really hard for me to pick up a book and read it through. Like it's just been challenging because when you get into college, you're reading all these books that are required reading, and so you kind of lose a taste for reading for enjoyment. And then
Well, that's cool because I didn't know that. I don't read for enjoyment, but you do,
Yeah.
and I guess college sucks the joy out of it.
It does. And that's something that I've talked to several people about. Like, I was a great reader up until I went to college, and then college just took it right out of me.
Yeah.
And that is a similar experience that people bond over. But so ever since graduating college, I've just wanted to read more and get back into that loop. But it's kind of, once you're out of the routine of something, it's hard to get back into it. Mm-hmm. So I used to be a really avid reader, and so I want to continue to grow my reading skills. PewDiePie said that he read 72 books last year.
72.
And it was like, man, I want to read 72 books.
That's over a book a week.
That's pretty good.
That's really good. Smart. PewDiePie. Specific. It has to be measurable.
Yes.
As the app measure, you gotta. This reminds me of our good man Steve Miller, who's now mayor of Ludington. Congratulations, Steve. But he used to put things like this in front of me when we worked at the radio station. Specific, measurable. So you got to be able to measure it.
Yeah, you got to know when you've succeeded at your goal, right? Okay. So measurable. That was always the part that when I was in education, writing my lesson plans out, it was the hardest part for me to get to was for my kids was the measurable, attainable,
Right.
realistic stuff. Because I didn't know how to, especially when I was writing lesson plans, it was like, how do I make the kids, how do I measure that?
I think attainable and realistic are kind of like the same. Like
They
it's
just wanna
attainable,
make the
realistic.
acronym work.
They want to make the acronym work. I know. And then time sensitive. So you got to put a date on it. You got to measure, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
because these are my New Year's goals.
Okay. So what are they? So the books thing, you want to read how many?
12 books.
Okay.
So
That's pretty good.
I've got 365 days,
Mm-hmm.
or 1 month per book in order to do it. So I chose 12 because there's 12 months in a year. And then, so I have that year to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's realistic because if I read one book a month, then I should be able to do it. I am a fast reader,
Right.
but I have to just set the time aside to do it.
I like it.
So read 12 books is one of my goals for 2019.
Yeah.
And then the other one is to record 52 podcasts.
That's one a week. We're not taking any time off.
No.
It's okay. I worked 4 years at the radio station, and I was only sick one day. This is fine. Okay, this is once a week. I love it. Yeah, 52 podcasts, that's attainable.
Yeah, I think so.
That is specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, realistic, and time sensitive.
Yeah, within the next year.
I like it. Very, very cool goals there. My goals, it's a rebuilding year, so I really... 2019 is so much more promising. 2017, super rocking for me, multiple awards. 2018, rebuilding and kind of just doing that grind. 2018 just specifically was tough. So I'm hoping that this next year, because 2017 is so rocking, when you have like an amazing year, like nonstop, just gangbusters doing stuff, it feels so great. And I have a lot to be thankful for. I mean, I'm directing a play right now. We got this podcast going on, so I mean, these are jobs we're getting paid for. We're getting a couple job offers right now, for the podcast, which is great. So yeah, this is good. And which brings us to our next topic, or a little segue into it, the value of vision boards. Now this is kind of like what they say, the secret. I found, I don't really know what the secret is. They say the secret is if you think about it and you like the book, right?
Yeah,
the book
it's like speak things into existence. The
and
law
I think
of
that's,
attraction.
I hate that. And I hate it because it's not real. I'm a multimillionaire or whatever you're saying. It's not real. It's not realistic. I don't like pretending. Mm-hmm. But what I do like is when I did make a vision board and I cut things out of a magazine that attracted me and that I wanted, and I put them up, I found that I got a lot of those things. Funny enough. Like, eventually those things started happening. And I had the board up in my room, and I just saw it before I left every day. And it was kind of a fun thing to do. And, it's just kind of nice. And I think, like, for me, it actually kind of worked out back in the day when I made a vision board that one time. Mm-hmm. I kind of got everything that I put in there. Weird.
Well, and I think that there's value in the reminders.
Yeah.
We as humans are very forgetful. We're just trying to grind day after day, just do our lives. And so you kind of lose sight of what you're trying, in your words, trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And so, and I like the experience of cutting and pasting and
So do you want to make one and we'll show them next week?
Okay,
so we'll buy some magazines. Okay, we'll cut some stuff out and we'll put them on a vision board or a little piece of paper, and then we'll share them. I hate saying vision board and I hate like doing the thing, but I think it's kind of fun, and I don't think there's any harm in it, kind of like putting some specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-sensitive goals on there. So we'll check that out.
I like it.
You like it. Okay. We are on to, the musky moment.
A musky moment.
All right. Being specific that it is the new year, this week in Elon Musk, he seems to have something new every single week. And I like this right here for the musky moment. Let me just bring this up on the podcast. Well, it's probably the most cool picture for 2018 right there. And that's a real picture. Elon Musk brought to you by Elon Musk when he launched a car into space. And you got our Starman in front of the world there. Pretty cool, huh?
It's beautiful. It is. It's one of those pictures that makes you question, our ability to do things, and it makes us feel both big and small, right? I think this is as impactful as the little blue dot, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a great picture. It's just look
at, they say you can't see any land masses in this picture, and they're kind of right, like the Pacific Ocean's big. Look at that. Mm-hmm. Wow, wow, it's a cool. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm just that's the first comment right there.
Yeah,
amazing. And it's not flat. Doesn't look flat. It doesn't look flat. Flat Earthers still going to town.
Maybe it's the angle.
Yeah, but Elon Musk doing great things, and we'll try to cover something from Elon every single week because he's a mover and shaker as much as we can. Your musky moment for the week, bringing us this image from 2018 on to 2019. What will he do next? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Moving along. And what's our next topic, Kendra? Help me out here.
Kendra's bad movie review.
Are we on to another bad movie review?
We are on to another bad movie review, which I found out. I did a little bit of reading about what a B movie is, and because this originally started as Kendra's B movie review, and it still is B movies. These movies are not going to be great that I'm reviewing because that is the type of movie that I enjoy. I enjoy a horror movie that is...
It's echoing. Is your voice echoing?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, probably a little bit.
I enjoy a B horror movie that is a little... Yes, it's very echoey.
Is it?
Yeah, I hear a little bit of an echo.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me adjust you. Go ahead. Keep going.
So anyway, the B horror movie, the B genre, it actually originated when movies were... they would do an A film, so they would do the first film, and then they would run a second film immediately after back in the 30s and 40s. So typically the second movie was either a sci-fi or a horror film, and that's where the term B horror or B films came from, because it was the second film that was played. So today's bad movie review is Tremors 6. A Cold Day in Hell. This was a direct-to-DVD release that occurred this year, 2018. Right now has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 40%. So this is not a well-loved movie. It being the sixth movie in a franchise, I don't know how many great movies were number 6 in their franchise, but... Tremors 6. So this takes place now in Canada. A team of young researchers are collecting ice core samples when they are attacked by a graboid, which the graboid is the prehistoric monster that comes up from the ground and eats people. It tracks people via ground movement and sonic kind of radar. So, which originally Bert, which is our star, he was the lead character in the TV show back when Tremors had a TV show, and he's been in every single movie, I do believe, even the one where they went back in time. So, or actually, I guess it was his great grandfather that was in the one that they went back in time. But so Bert is always our lead character. He and his son arrive in Canada, which they actually think that, like, how is the graboid living in this cold place? Because graboids live in hot desert areas. They don't live in cold areas. So Bert and his son arrive.
Is this one that's called A Cold Day in Hell?
It is a cold day in hell. They arrive to try to help figure out what's going on with the graboids, why they're in this cold area, how they can kill them, etc., etc. And they end up needing to develop an antidote to save Bert's life. I did not see the fifth one, so I did not know, but in the fifth one, Bert had an accident with one of the graboids, and he had some poison in him from that fifth movie, and so in the sixth one, he starts to get really sick, and so they end up having to develop an antidote to try to save him. Now, that's an ass blaster that you see flying right there. That is the scientific term for them, an ass blaster. They fly via blasting from their ass. So this being the sixth film, I enjoyed it just because I love the Tremors franchise. We actually, in my family, had a dog named Tremors that was actually named after the TV show. So Tremors is a fond moment in my heart. What was enjoyable about this film is they had a lot of callbacks to the first one. The girl in this film, she is actually the daughter of the two main characters from the very first movie. So if you remember the very first movie, it was Kevin Bacon and then an actress. And so
you got Jamie Kennedy in this.
Yeah. Yep. So it was Kevin Bacon and then the girl that he ended up hooking up with. It's their daughter that is in the female lead in this film, and she actually has graboid boots that were made from like the skin of a graboid that her parents made for her. So there's lots of callbacks to the first one. There's a bunch of gun jokes, which if you know a lot about weapons, if you're into weapons, then you're going to enjoy the weapons jokes. I personally enjoyed the energy drink joke that was in it. So it's a funny movie. I would say it's like 1% self-aware, like 1 out of 5 self-awareness. So it's doesn't really recognize how ridiculous it is, but it is a ridiculous film. Overall, I would give it a 1 out of 5. 1 out of 5 Starship Troopers. This is Tremors. Oh, then this is not the one that I've seen. But so it would get a 1 out of 5 Starship Troopers simply because I know that people, the score was lowered because it went direct to DVD. If you really love Tremors and you're like, I'm an originalist and the first one was so great, then you're not going to enjoy this film. But if you're like me and you both love Tremors and you love bad films, you're going to enjoy this film. Some of it was just very funny. It had lots of jokes in it. Which
I think we got the right
good.
one here. I'm sorry. We got that. This is 6. Yeah, but I think they say 5's on DVD. Okay.
Oh, okay. But this, I would compare this movie to like the 6th film of any movie franchise, wherein they're trying to regain the glory of the first film, so they do callbacks, but also it knows that it's kind of ridiculous. So
can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
Why did you choose this movie? Did you find out that it was? Did you hear about it online? Was it recommended or what?
Well, it was recommended to me via Netflix, so it was on Netflix, I think it was, and so. Because I love Tremors, the original movie that I saw the TV show when it was on, I was like, yeah, I'll watch the 6th film. You know, how bad could the 6th one be? Let's find out together. And so I would not recommend this for people who are super uptight about their Tremors film and they loved the first one. It was so great. But it's definitely, if you enjoy bad films, I think it's worth a watch. But it's definitely a 1 out of 5 just because it's not the greatest.
I like it. One Starship Troopers out of 5?
Yeah, it's pretty low. I originally gave it a higher score, but I know that that's my own personal bias kind of impacting the score. I saw a comment on it, basically somebody being like, I'm going to list my least favorite Tremors film to my most favorite Tremors film in order, and it went 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So some people think that this is the worst film out of all of them. It had I really think that the jokes in it kind of give it a redeeming quality. One of my favorite jokes was Bert and his son are about to leave for Canada, and his son throws a gun in the truck, and Bert says, "Did you fill out the form to bring that gun to Canada?" I love paperwork. You got to have a paperwork person in your life. So it is mildly self-aware, lots and lots of jokes, but Bert is not as badass in this one, I think, as he's been in some of the other films. Granted, that's because of his sickness. They're trying to come up with this antidote, and Bert is coming in and out of consciousness, so it's really his son that has to take over and try to get the antidote with the scientists to heal his father. So
all right, so 1 out of 5 Starship Troopers, not very good, man. You really? I thought it would be fun. It looked fun.
I mean, I almost gave it a 2 out of 5, but I feel like my love of the franchise is kind of skewing the score higher. If some stranger was looking for a B horror film to watch, this is not probably the first one I would recommend. Just because it's the 6th film in a franchise, you'd have to kind of understand where the franchise has been, and the fact that it's just trying to regain the glory of that first film. I did feel that a couple of times throughout the film of, all right, we're going to put it in a new setting, but we're going to include characters from the first film, but we're going to, so it had some of these moments where it was just trying to get that back. And, but in my heart of hearts, 2 out of 5, but for the lay person, it's a 1 out of 5.
Okay. Well, 1 out of 5, Tremors, 6, A Cold Day in Hell. Let's move on to our next story from the internet, and this is a great, cool story. A kidnapper, would-be kidnapper, strong guy, hopped up on drugs, tries to kidnap a lady. Where does she run? She runs into a karate dojo, and that was the mistake that she made. This guy right here noticed the woman. She's coming in. She says, "There's a man outside trying to kidnap me." And sure enough, a few moments later, the guy came in. When they tried to stop him, he said, "No, I want to talk to the lady." So the karate guy had his students and him, the karate master. I don't have his name. It's in Charlotte, North Carolina. His name is Ephraim. His last name Ephraim. But anyway, he told the guy he had to leave. Didn't want to leave. Then used some karate to make him get outside. Also, the guy tried to get violent more outside, and they used a little bit more karate, sedate him. The police came. Obviously, the guy was hopped up on drugs, but the lady was saved. And it's like the one place you really want to go when you're in trouble is into a karate dojo. I mean, it was probably the wrong move for this guy. I think I had a photo of him somewhere.
Well, in this instance, now was it a student? This woman that came in there?
No, just random. No, she's outside. The kids were packing up for the day. It was at night, 9 p.m. It was a little bit traumatic for the kids, obviously, but he felt like he was going to bring it into the lesson for the next day. So
what a teachable moment! Absolutely. I mean, This is a real world scenario that actually happened to them, and kind of doing a debrief for the kids to help them understand what's going on and how to handle the situation in the future, a situation like that in the future. That's
the guy right there. See, I have a photo of him right there on top. You can tell he's probably a large man, especially, he said he was just punching at everything from walls to cars, which was crazy. But, self-defense. You ever take any self-defense?
I have. I took about a year of self-defense when I was at Cotty. Every weekend I got up and I went.
What's Cotty?
It was the college that I attended.
You assume that college. Everybody knows what Cotty is.
Cotty College. When I was at Cotty
College.
Every Saturday I would get up and I would do some self-defense training with another girl that had actual experience. And when I went to visit her in Tulsa, Oklahoma, she took me to her own, like the dojo that she trained in growing up and that she attends when she's at home. So I got to like do some training with the people at the dojo, which was a cool experience because I'd never done that before. I'd only ever worked really with her. And so yeah, I've had some experience of doing.
Yeah, there you go. Long answer to a simple question. I was a green belt. I got to a green belt in karate as a kid. It's punches and kicks. I don't know if it applies to real life. I don't think I could ever win in a fight. So therefore, I just avoid the fight. I've never really had to fight. I think if you get yourself in a situation, maybe there's always a way out. I'd run. I'm pretty fast.
Well, and that was always the first lesson of self-defense. That was always the first thing that she taught is I'm not teaching you to fight. I'm teaching you to be able to run away. I'm teaching you enough skills to allow you to get to a safe place. And so the fact that this woman was already in the process of running, that's actually the smart thing to do. Run away, run as fast as you can into the nearest dojo, apparently, or police station is actually the first, my first choice. If you're near a police station or you know where the police are and you're being chased by somebody, I think that is the safest way to make sure that you are protected. But a dojo worked out in this situation, and
yeah, it did. You know what? And with that, I think we're going to call it today for the podcast. Okay, Kendra? Is that all right?
I think so.
Okay, happy Saturday to you, everybody. Every 2 o'clock right here on twitch.tv/truthnow, or you can catch us at our website, shootthemessenger.net. Thank you for joining us. All supportings go to Patreon. If you want to support the podcast, you can. Where we set up?
It's Shoot the
just
Messenger.
Just go to the website, right?
Yeah. Shootthemessenger.net. You can find us on Patreon, Shoot the Messenger Podcast.
Okay, and that was episode 8. We will continue to grow and get better every single week. But until then, any final parting words, Kendra?
Happy New Year!
Hey!
2019!
Who took my spaghetti? Hey! All right, take it easy, everybody.